The
This
hotel
can't go
bar
on like
glowed
this.
with amber
I
lighting and
know.
soft jazz music as Lauren sat across from Derek in a leather booth, feeling the warmth of her second glass of wine spreading through her chest. Derek leaned closer, sharing stories about his failed engagement 2 years ago and how he never found anyone who understood him like Lauren once did back in their college days when everything felt possible and uncomplicated. Lauren felt herself opening up in ways she had not expected, telling Derek about her marriage routines, how Nathan was wonderful and steady, but how sometimes she craved spontaneity and passion instead of their predictable Friday movie nights and Sunday morning pancakes. She immediately felt guilty for complaining about the man who loved her unconditionally, but Derek's intense gaze made her feel seen and desired in a way she had almost forgotten. When Derek suggested they continue talking in his suite to avoid the crowded bar noise, Lauren's rational mind screamed warnings, but her heart pounded with dangerous excitement. She texted Nathan a quick goodnight message, claiming exhaustion from the long conference day, then followed Derek to the elevator. Her reflection in the mirrored walls showed a woman she barely recognized, flushed cheeks, bright eyes, and a reckless energy that terrified and thrilled her simultaneously. Inside Derek's luxury penthouse suite, overlooking the illuminated Chicago skyline, the boundaries Lauren had maintained for 10 faithful years of marriage dissolved as Derek poured champagne and stood so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. He whispered that seeing her again felt like destiny, that he never stopped wondering what their life together might have been. The kiss happened suddenly and intensely, erasing Lauren's remaining hesitation as passion overtook reason and she surrendered to the forbidden moment that would change everything. Their night together felt like stepping into an alternate reality where consequences did not exist, only desire and the intoxicating illusion of reclaiming lost youth and abandoned dreams. Morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows woke Lauren, tangled in hotel sheets beside Derek's sleeping form, and reality crashed down on her like icy water. What had she done to Nathan, to their marriage, to the sacred vows they exchanged under that flower-covered archway a decade ago? Shame burned through her as she quietly dressed and hurried back to her room, where she stood under a scalding shower, scrubbing her skin as if she could wash away the betrayal.
Lauren avoided Derek the entire second conference day, sitting in different sections during presentations and skipping the networking lunch. But by evening, he texted, asking to see her again. Despite swearing to herself that their night together was a terrible one-time mistake, she found herself agreeing to meet him for dinner at an intimate Italian restaurant away from the conference crowd, where candlelight flickered between them like dangerous flames. Derek held her hand across the white tablecloth, speaking passionately about how their reconnection felt magical and how he imagined them building a life together in Chicago, where she could transfer her marketing skills to his growing company. Lauren listened, torn between the fantasy he painted of excitement, adventure, and romance versus the stable, loving reality she had built with Nathan back in Seattle. Over the next 3 days, Lauren lived a double life, attending professional sessions while stealing away for secret afternoon meetings with Derek in his suite, where guilt battled against the addictive rush of their affair. Each evening, she called Nathan from her hotel room, lying about networking dinners and early morning meetings, while her husband cheerfully shared stories about his firehouse pranks and how much he missed her warmth beside him at night. Nathan's trusting voice through the phone made Lauren's chest ache with self-loathing, but Derek's intoxicating presence kept pulling her back into the fantasy that maybe she deserved this passion, that perhaps her marriage had become too comfortable, too boring, too predictable for a woman only 32 years old. She convinced herself she would end things with Derek after the conference, return home, and somehow bury this shameful secret forever. On her final Chicago evening, Lauren met Derek, expecting a romantic farewell dinner. but instead found him distracted and cold, checking his phone constantly and barely making eye contact. When she asked what was wrong, he casually mentioned his fiancée was flying in tomorrow and how this week had been a fun escape but obviously could not continue beyond the conference. Lauren felt the room spinning as Derek explained he was engaged to a venture capitalist named Amanda, and their relationship was primarily a beneficial business partnership, but certainly nothing as passionate as what he and Lauren shared this week. He actually thanked her for the memories, as if their affair was simply entertainment, a diversion from his real life, leaving Lauren stunned and hollow. She stumbled back to her hotel room feeling used, betrayed, and disgusted with herself for throwing away her marriage for a man who never intended anything serious. The person she betrayed most was not Derek, who owed her nothing, but Nathan, who gave her everything, his trust, his love, his unwavering devotion, and she repaid him with lies and infidelity that now seemed utterly meaningless. The next morning, Lauren woke feeling nauseated and dizzy, attributing it to emotional distress, until she realized with growing panic that her period was 5 days late. She rushed to a nearby pharmacy, purchasing 3 different pregnancy tests, and locked herself in the hotel bathroom, where all 3 displayed unmistakable positive results, confirming the heartbreaking surprise that would expose everything.
Lauren could not comprehend Nathan's response, having expected justified rage and immediate divorce papers, but instead found herself held by her husband as they both cried on their living room couch. Nathan admitted the betrayal cut deeper than anything he experienced, including the traumatic fires and losses at his job, but that throwing away 10 years of love and history felt like letting the tragedy win. The following weeks tested them in ways Lauren never imagined, as Nathan processed his pain through individual therapy while they also attended marriage counseling together 3 times weekly. Some days, Nathan could barely look at her, consumed by mental images of her with Derek, while other days he held her hand, determined to move forward, despite the agonizing hurt that still consumed him. Nathan made one absolute requirement, that Lauren cut all contact with Derek permanently, delete every message and social media connection, and commit fully to their marriage without any lingering fantasies about the man who abandoned her. Lauren agreed completely, recognizing how Nathan's willingness to stay and forgive represented a love deeper than anything Derek ever offered with his empty promises and selfish betrayal. As Lauren's pregnancy progressed, Nathan surprised her by attending every single doctor's appointment, asking questions about fetal development, and holding her hand during the ultrasound that revealed they were expecting a daughter. He placed his hand on Lauren's growing belly, feeling the baby kick, and made a powerful declaration that this child would be his daughter in every way that mattered, regardless of biology or DNA. Their therapist, Dr. Rebecca Santos, explained that Nathan's choice to forgive and raise another man's child demonstrated extraordinary emotional maturity, but warned them both that healing from infidelity required years, not months, of consistent effort, communication, and rebuilt trust. Lauren committed to complete transparency, giving Nathan access to her phone, location, and schedule, while proving through daily actions that she valued their marriage above everything. Lauren also began journaling her thoughts and feelings, discovering through painful self-reflection that her affair stemmed from her own insecurities about aging, fear of missing out on excitement, and taking Nathan's steady, dependable love for granted. She realized Derek represented an illusion of passion without substance, while Nathan offered genuine partnership that could weather even catastrophic storms. When their daughter, Grace Elizabeth Mitchell, was born on a rainy October morning, Nathan cut the umbilical cord and held the tiny infant against his chest. He whispered promises to Grace that he would be the father she deserved, protecting and loving her unconditionally. And in that moment, Lauren witnessed the true meaning of grace, unearned forgiveness that transforms brokenness into beauty. As Grace grew from infant to toddler with dark curls and bright green eyes that resembled neither parent, Nathan never once treated her as anything less than his beloved daughter. He changed diapers, walked floors during sleepless nights, taught her to ride a tricycle, and filled their home with the kind of love that transcends genetics, proving that family is built through choice and commitment, not just biology. Lauren's career continued successfully with the promotion she earned, but she restructured her priorities, ensuring work travel was minimal and that Nathan and Grace always came first. She learned that true fulfillment came not from external validation or exciting affairs, but from nurturing the precious relationships right in front of her that she almost destroyed through selfish choices. The Chicago business trip that nearly ended their marriage instead became the catalyst for a deeper, more authentic love, as Nathan and Lauren rebuilt their relationship on radical honesty, vulnerability, and daily choices to prioritize each other. They renewed their wedding vows on their 15th anniversary, with 4-year-old Grace as their flower girl, symbolizing how their broken pieces had been transformed into something even stronger. What we learn from this story. This story teaches us that taking love for granted and seeking excitement outside committed relationships leads to devastating consequences that hurt everyone involved, including ourselves. Lauren's selfishness and pursuit of nostalgic fantasy nearly destroyed the genuine love Nathan offered, showing how affairs provide only temporary illusion while damaging real intimacy and trust built over years. We learn that true strength lies not in perfection, but in choosing forgiveness even when deeply wounded, as Nathan demonstrated by seeing past betrayal to salvage their marriage and embrace Grace as his daughter. His response shows that unconditional love means making conscious daily choices to forgive, rebuild, and commit, even when feelings are raw and painful. The story reveals how grass is greener thinking blinds us to the value of what we already possess, as Lauren discovered too late that Derek's exciting persona masked shallow character, while Nathan's steady dependability reflected profound love worth cherishing. We must actively appreciate and nurture our relationships rather than seeking validation from external sources or past connections that distract from present blessings. Finally, we learn that mistakes, even catastrophic ones, need not define our future if we take full responsibility, seek genuine change, and find partners willing to extend grace. Lauren's journey from selfish betrayal to redemption through grateful commitment shows that redemption requires humility, consistent effort, and recognition that real love is built through sacrifice, communication, and choosing your partner repeatedly, especially when it is difficult.
Lauren Mitchell stood at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport terminal gate, clutching her carry-on bag, while her husband Nathan wrapped his strong arms around her waist one final time before boarding. She breathed in his familiar scent of cedar and coffee, promising him she would call every single evening during her week-long marketing conference in Chicago, Illinois, even though they had never spent more than 2 nights apart in their entire 10 years of marriage. Nathan, a 34-year-old firefighter with kind hazel eyes and sandy brown hair, kissed her forehead gently, reassuring her that this business trip represented a massive career milestone she absolutely deserved. He joked about burning dinner while she was gone, but secretly planned an elaborate romantic welcome home celebration, complete with rose petals, candles, and her favorite lasagna recipe from his Italian grandmother. The flight to Chicago felt endless as Lauren reviewed her presentation notes for the National Marketing Summit, where over 500 professionals would gather at the luxurious Riverside Convention Center downtown. She was nervous yet thrilled, having worked 18 months on the campaign analysis she would present, hoping to impress the senior partners at her firm, who hinted at a promotion. After checking into her hotel room overlooking the Chicago River with its glittering city lights reflected on dark waters, Lauren unpacked her business suits and called Nathan as promised. They talked about his shift at the firehouse and her excitement for tomorrow's opening keynote, neither suspecting how drastically everything would change. The next morning, Lauren entered the buzzing conference hall filled with networking professionals when a familiar voice called her name, making her heart skip unexpectedly. It was Derek Hayes, her college boyfriend from Northwestern University 12 years ago, looking impossibly handsome in a tailored navy suit with silver cufflinks. Derek, now a successful tech entrepreneur specializing in digital marketing analytics, had aged like fine wine, with his dark hair slightly gray at the temples and confident posture that commanded attention. They hugged awkwardly at first, then fell into easy conversation over coffee, reminiscing about their campus days, study sessions, and that unforgettable spring break road trip to California. What started as innocent catching up at the coffee station somehow extended through lunch at a trendy downtown bistro, where Derek ordered wine and made Lauren laugh harder than she had in months. His stories about building his startup company, traveling internationally, and living in a downtown Chicago penthouse painted a picture of excitement and adventure that felt worlds away from her comfortable but predictable Seattle suburban life with Nathan. As afternoon sessions began, Lauren found herself distracted during presentations, constantly glancing across the auditorium where Derek sat, taking notes but occasionally catching her eye with that mischievous grin she remembered from their youth. When the day ended, Derek suggested drinks at the hotel bar, and despite the tiny voice of warning in her mind, Lauren agreed, telling herself it was simply networking between old friends, nothing more.
The weeks following that first dinner became a delicate dance of temptation and restraint. Ethan began spending more time at the Reynolds home, often staying over on weekends in the guest room. Sophia told herself she was just being a welcoming host, making her daughter's boyfriend feel like family, but the truth was far more complicated. Late one Friday night, Sophia couldn't sleep and wandered downstairs for water. She found Ethan sitting at the kitchen island, strumming his guitar softly, the moonlight casting shadows across his face. He looked up, startled, then smiled that devastating smile that had begun haunting her dreams. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked, setting the guitar aside gently. "I hope I didn't wake you with my playing." Sophia shook her head, pulling her robe tighter, suddenly aware of how little she wore beneath it. "No, I just needed some water. It's nice, actually, hearing you play. You're very talented." Ethan stood and moved closer than necessary to pour her a glass, their fingers brushing as he handed it to her. "Thank you," he said quietly, his eyes searching hers. "You know, I really admire you, Sophia. Raising Ava alone, building your career, being so strong and beautiful." She should have walked away right then. Instead, she found herself frozen as Ethan continued talking about how mature and fascinating she was compared to girls his age, how he felt this inexplicable connection to her that he couldn't understand. When his hand reached up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, Sophia finally found her voice. "This can't happen," she whispered, stepping back, trembling. "You're with my daughter, Ethan. This is wrong in every possible way." "I know," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "But I can't stop thinking about you, Sophia. Every time I'm with Ava, I feel guilty because you're the one I want to talk to be near." Before she could respond, footsteps sounded upstairs. They jumped apart just as Ava appeared, rubbing her eyes sleepily. "Hey, you two, what are you doing up?" she asked, yawning. "Just getting water, sweetheart," Sophia managed, her voice somehow steady. "Go back to bed." The close call should have ended things, but instead it intensified them. Over the next month, stolen glances became lingering touches. Accidental encounters in hallways became deliberately orchestrated moments alone. When Ava went to her college classes, Ethan would find excuses to stop by, claiming he wanted to ask Sophia's advice about career moves or apartments. One afternoon, when Ava was away for a weekend trip with friends, rain pattering against windows, Ethan showed up at Sophia's door drenched from a sudden storm. She let him in against her better judgment, and as she handed him a towel, their eyes locked. The air between them crackled with unspoken desire. "We should stop this," Sophia whispered, even as her body betrayed her, leaning toward him. "I'm old enough to be your mother. This affair could destroy her, Ethan. We have to stop." But even as she said it, she knew they wouldn't. The addiction had already taken hold. What we learn?
Giving in to temptation often requires a series of small compromises that build upon each other. Sophia and Ethan's affair didn't happen in one moment, but through accumulated choices to be alone together, to share intimate conversations, to ignore warning signs. Their selfishness prioritized their own desires over Ava's well-being, demonstrating how passion without principle leads to devastating consequences.